Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Good morning, and welcome to another Good Morning Grief Devotion. It's your boy, Pastor Corey Allen Duncan Sr. So excited to have this wonderful opportunity to lead you today in such a special way in today's Good Morning Grief Devotion. This is indeed the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I'm so glad that you are here. Make sure you like, share, tag somebody in this post. If it's a blessing to you, it's going to be a blessing to them. This is the daily grief devotion that is strategically designed to help you to navigate through your grief one day at a time. What is grief? I'm so glad you asked. Grief, my brothers and sisters, it is the natural and normal response to loss, change, and transition that results in the expressions of feelings and emotions. Grief is what you feel on the inside. Mourning is how it is expressed on the outside. Therefore, we don't suppress it, but we express it. We don't ignore it, but we explore it. We don't conceal it, but we reveal it. We don't lock it up, but we let it out. That's why we shout good morning, because mourning is a good thing. And I'm so glad as you navigate through your loss, change, and transition. I'm so glad at the opportunity to help you to do just that on today. Well, my brothers and sisters, today is day 212. We're going to talk about I'm blessed by grace. I am blessed by grace. Short devotion today, but let's get into it. Grace is the divine mechanism by which anything good I've received in life has been given to me. Grace gave me life. Grace gave me love. Grace generously bestowed on me every gift I've ever been given. After all, I didn't earn life, and I haven't always deserved the love that I have received. Grace, it is divine mechanism by which anything good I received in life has been given to me. I didn't earn life, right? And I and I haven't always deserved the love that I have received. Cultivating gratitude for this grace, for this life, is key to living forward with joy and meaning. Y'all, we are blessed by grace. Everything that we have, everything that we've been given, everything that God has bestowed upon us, it is by His grace. It's nothing that we didn't earn. Nothing that we didn't earn. Nothing that we didn't deserve, right? But it was something that God bestowed upon us. That's what we got to know, and that's what we got to understand. That we learn how to find peace and love and appreciation for the grace that God has given us. Whenever I think of grace, y'all, I can't help but think of a couple of things. I think of when you pay a bill, right? A bill has a due date that is due, and then they always give you, here it is. If you can't make it by the date, they give you a grace period, right? And they say, yo, we know things happen, situations, circumstances, things come up, things pop up, but there's a grace period, right, for you to be able to do what we got to do. We're going to give you some grace. And even though it may not be deserved, it may not be warranted, we're going to give you a grace in order to still make this happen, to navigate through it. And I can't but help think about and think when every time I think, right? I can't help but to think about the grace periods that God gives us, right? That He helps us. We are blessed by grace, and He bestows it upon us as we navigate through this thing called life, as we navigate through our grief. God gives us periods of grace, right? Periods of grace to get it right, periods of grace to do what we got to do, periods of grace to navigate through this thing called life, right? It's one of the best characteristics of God that I love, right? Because it's His unmerited favor. I didn't earn it, I don't deserve it, but He gives us grace. Even as we navigate through seasons of grief and as we navigate through this thing trying to get it right, God gives us grace. Don't deserve it, don't didn't earn it, but we are blessed by grace, not of our own merit. One thing that I recognize and understand is not of my own power or strength, or it's not of my own accord that I'm able to do what I do or navigate through this thing. I know that I recognize and I realize that I gotta lean and depend on God's grace to get me through. Same thing with you. When it comes to navigating through this thing called grief, You can't do it in your own strength. You can't do it in your own power. You can't do it in and of your own self. You have to depend on the grace of God to get you through. And in so many situations and circumstances, so many days, so many times, you have been blessed by grace. One of the things when it comes to grief, uh, and this is, for the most part, this happens all the time. When people know you lose a loved one, right? Most times they give you grace, right? Whether it's work, whether it's just out in public, or friends or family, or just different stuff that you're doing, that you're working on. People have a tendency to allow more grace in these seasons, right? People are more gracious, right? And they give you more grace because they realize the pressure of the burden in which you're under, right? So people have a tendency to give you grace. You got to know and understand, as you navigate through your grief, as you navigate through this grief journey, we are blessed by grace. That God gives us grace to navigate through it. He gives us grace to grow. He gives us grace. I love to say it like this: He gives us grace in the gap, right? There's grace in the gaps of our life, those areas that need to be filled, those places where there's gaps in our life. God says, I'm gonna give you grace in the gap as you navigate through this grief. If you figure it out, as you try to get it right, as you go through the process, as you try to pick up the pieces, as you try to dot the i's and cross the t's and make the moves, and have certain things happen, I'm going to give you grace as you navigate through it. That's the great thing about our God. We got to know we're blessed by grace. Here's the final thought, y'all. I am grateful for the grace in every moment. I am grateful for the grace in every moment. Today is day 212. We got to know that we are blessed by grace. One thing that you got to continue to lean and depend on in this season of grief, lean and depend on God's grace. When you're going through grief, lean on God's grace. When you're navigating through this season of grief, you have to lean on God's grace. That's the thing that's going to help you through. That's the thing. One of the things going to pull you through. It's going to pull you through, going to help you to navigate through this thing called life. We lean and depend on God's grace. Again, today is 12. Today is 212. We are talking about how we are blessed by God's grace. If I had an opportunity, y'all, I'd pass this mic around and tell y'all to just testify of some of the grace that you have experienced going through your grief journey. Where have you seen His grace in your grief? That would be the question. Where have you seen God's grace in the midst of your grief? Right? Where have you seen? And you ain't got to answer it. I know y'all would have some phenomenal stories and testimonies though. Where have you seen God's grace in the midst of your grief? Look for God's grace in the midst of your grief, right? Look for His grace as you navigate through the grief process, and you'll see the unmerited favor helping you to navigate through every situation and circumstance as you continue to go through this thing called grief. It's your boy, Pastor Corey Allen Duncan Sr. I appreciate y'all joining us on today. Remember, we're here every single day at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our grief devotion. I love y'all with the love of the Lord. I appreciate y'all. Hope and pray y'all have a terrific Tuesday in Jesus' name. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Same time, same place. Love y'all with the love of the Lord. Let's go.